And let's start this interview with Jorge Ramos and Mondami. Again, Mondami is the front runner right now, likely to be the next mayor of New York City. It's a much of a twist for Democrats who, I would say 4 months ago, didn't necessarily see this coming, but they've all fallen in line and they've all essentially endorsed not just Mondami, but when you're endorsing the candidate, you're endorsing the policies. Daniel, I want to begin with you. I think we have the clip that we'll play for our audience.
Politically, I think I have to ask you this question. Just going back to socialismo, do you think that Miguel Díaz-Canel in Cuba is a dictator?
I haven't thought much about Miguel Diaz, I'll be honest with you. I think mostly about these 5 boroughs and how we can actually deliver affordability for New Yorkers.
But do you think Nicolás Maduro is a dictator in Venezuela?
I think he has done many a horrible thing.
But again, do you think it's important that you say that they are dictators and that people understand here in New York that you are not aligned with them?
I think it's clear, and it's important for me to showcase how this is a vision for the people of the city. And as you said, it is in stark contrast to the experiences that many others have had. And I think when I hear from a number of Venezuelan New Yorkers about what drove them to come to this city, the conditions that they had to live through, I understand their skepticism. I understand their caution. And yet I have found in them an understanding that my vision is one that is distinct from that experience.
All right, we've seen the clip and we've seen this conversation between Jorge Ramos and Mondami. Daniel, I want to start with you. I mean, to me, it's astonishing. Let's be honest. He kind of acts like he doesn't know who these individuals are. I want to ask you one, do you think he's being genuine? Do you think he actually doesn't know who Díaz-Canel, a dictator in Cuba, is? Does he not know who Maduro is, dictator in Venezuela? How do you see it?
Mamdani's a liar, and I think he knows that most people don't see through him. And it's so obvious. I mean, this man still has tweets up from 2013 saying that Venezuela's elections are, I quote, not so shabby. You know, that they're great election observers. So this is somebody who, since he was young, has been looking at socialist countries like Venezuela and Cuba to see what they do, and he likes it. And now, because he knows it's a political liability, he comes and says, oh, I haven't thought about it much. And notice in the clip, in the entire interview, where he says something like, he never says that his platform or positions are different. He says it's important that people think they are different. That is a very different statement, okay? That is like trying to walk the tightrope between saying something you don't want to say and saying the truth, right? So I think he's just, in Spanish, nos está tomando el pelo.
Yeah, but Daniel, but I want to ask you, you made a good point there, because that's, I think, one of the most telling things of the interview. He tries to make a difference between his policies and the policies of Venezuela. You know, you're familiar with Mondami's platform. You're also familiar with the policies in Venezuela. Do you have a different point of view where you see similarities in these platforms?
Well, I'm going to tell you several things. First, beyond the platform, he belongs to the Democratic Socialists of America, which is an organization that almost every year travels to Venezuela to meet with the dictator of Venezuela. That is what he belongs to. He belongs to this organization that, in my opinion, is a criminal organization that supports the largest refugee crisis in the world, over 8 million Venezuelans who have fled. Okay. Now his platform, free buses, free childcare, forgiving student debt, $30 per hour minimum wage, higher taxes on the wealthy, defunding the NYPD. Now he's running for a mayor. He's not running for president of the United States, so he can't do what Chavez did in Venezuela. He can't print money. Thank God that the New York City mayor doesn't control the Fed. But you know what he can do? Bankrupt the city with promises of free things, which is what Venezuela did. And he actually can bankrupt the city. Now, you might say, well, he'll just get the money elsewhere, taxing the rich. he doesn't even have the authority to increase tax rates. He does have the authority, though, to enact his rent control. He does have the authority, though, to defund NYPD and harm them and increase crime, just like in Venezuela it happened. And now we became one of the most dangerous countries in the world. So that is my concern. He actually supports them. His agenda looks a lot like it. And the organizations he belongs to actively support that
Yeah,
too.
Dan, I think a lot of individuals in the United States, not everybody, but there are pockets of individuals who don't pay attention to the actual impact that policies like these socialist policies have had in other countries. My point, to make it a little bit more clear, there are people in New York who haven't studied the policies of Venezuela, who haven't looked at the impact of these policies in Cuba. Do you think this clip has a little bit, might spark that questioning, or do you think people are just, I mean, are they just going to continue to sort of blindly look at what Mondami is saying and sort of believe it? Because I'll give you a little bit of my opinion. I think when you have policies, socialist policies that are being brought forward, there's a blueprint to how these things play out. There's actual results. There's a case study, and that's Venezuela and Cuba. Do you think in New York this clip might spark a little bit of that discussion?
Well, I think like on its face, I mean, he's blatantly insincere. I think that much is obvious. Of course he knows who these people are. Like to say he doesn't is insulting. But also I think he tried to get cute with it a little bit when he said, oh, my focus is on, New York and whatever, my little bubble, and that's all I'm really caring. Because I remember there was a debate a couple months back where they asked all the candidates running for mayor of New York, they asked them, oh, what country would you travel to? And they all said Israel. And then he said, which was a highlight moment for him in polling, people really loved it. He said, I'm not focused on other countries. I'm focused on New York. For that question, that was a great answer. He hit a home run. But he tried to repeat that, try to get cute again, like, oh, I'm only focused on New York. Yeah, but the policies you're trying to bring in did some serious damage in other countries. And to act like you're not aware of what that caused is, like I said, blatantly insincere. He's a liar, like Daniel said. And Daniel, I want to ask you, because I know that's your area right now.
Well, I'm from Venezuela, for the people who don't know.
Right, we're in Venezuela, and you're in New York right now, right?
Yeah.
Who is he polling well with? Is it the Hispanic working class, or is it the 1% rich elite?
I'm going to tell you right now, because I just saw a poll actually this morning, and he has he's very likely to win. Okay, so he's polling at 45%. Cuomo is second at 27%, and then it's Sliwa, the Republican, at 11%, and then Adams at 8%. Okay, so even if they all combined, they're not going to reach 45 against him. It's that bad. So he's polling among voters under 35, 61% of the vote. He's polling with women under age 45, so just women under age 45, not 35, 60% of the vote. He wins Democrats. He has half of the Hispanic and half of the Black vote. He is really underwater is with Jewish voters, only 27%. Makes sense because of his entire stance against Israel. You said, oh, I'm not focused in other countries. I'm just focused in New York. This is the same man who said that if Benjamin Netanyahu comes to the city, he's going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. Mm-hmm. Oh, but he doesn't know who the dictator of Cuba is. Of course he doesn't know who Miguel is, right? Oh, the nice Miguelito. I mean, we all know that Mamdani actually supports the Cuban regime. He just hates Israel. He hates the West. Because if he had a consistent position and said, I'm going to arrest people where the ICC has an order against them, well, guess what? Maduro has an order against him by the ICC.
Yeah.
Would you arrest Nicolas Maduro? Would you arrest his cronies? No, because he just hates the Jewish state. So, going back to the polling, he's doing badly actually with older voters, 34% of people over 65. So it's really just about young voters and very liberal voters that are driving him. But he's actually polling average with blacks
Yeah,
and Hispanics.
Daniel, and another thing to some of the points that you guys are making is, look, mayors because a lot of people I've seen on Instagram and TikTok, they're commenting, and a lot of the pushback that his supporters are saying, like, he's running for New York City, he's not running, for a federal or for something related to foreign policy. But the reality is, mayors they have sister cities. They have partnerships. They care about tourism. They're welcoming people from other countries all the time. New York City is home to so many people that came from Venezuela, people that came from all Latin America, from all parts of the world. To say that he is completely separated, for me, if anything, it's a red flag. It's saying, how does the person that I'm trying to, or that wants me to elect them as mayor, does not know at least a little bit of foreign policy, does not know who these folks are? So one, that's a red flag. Two, the fact that we all agree he's being not honest because he knows who these individuals are, but I think he did it because he knows that if he associates his policies to these countries, it might be a little bit of a wake-up call, because folks are going to say, I can look into the future when it comes to what these policies would do here in New York.
Also, Wadi, part of the clip, he says, when I talk to Venezuelan New Yorkers, I want to meet one Venezuelan New Yorker he has spoken to. I want to meet that person. One. Introduce that person to me. I think it's New Yorker who said there are no parallels between his policies. I think it's a complete lie. I challenge him to find me one that he actually spoke to before that interview. And then second, it's obvious that he is just lying about Cubans, about Venezuelans. And if anything, maybe it's people who actually support.
I want to ask you,
the regime.
Latinos across the country, there has been this shift to the right. Latinos are looking at conservative policies. They're looking at the values and principles behind it. I think they're tying it to, hey, this country, the United States, has risen, has produced economic opportunity, and it's tied to these founding principles. New York is a little bit different in the sense that it is one of the more liberal cities. Dominicans and Puerto Ricans at a higher rate compared to many other demographics within the Latino community vote more with Democrats. However, I think when it comes down to the topic of socialism, how should conservatives in New York, there are existing, Daniel Di Marti being one of them, but conservatives in New York, I mean, what are the conversations that you think they should be bringing to the forefront to Latinos who live in New York City and will be impacted with what would be socialist policies?
Well, it's interesting. What's the saying? Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. I think what's happening in New York right now, the finance capital of Earth, right? Excess and, flourishing, rich people everywhere and success. And, when you get to that level, I almost feel like being liberal is a privilege. Like you get to be liberal, like because of, the hard work that went into society and building it, conservative principles and values. Like you don't get to be a liberal. Ask Daniel DiMartino if you get to be a liberal in Venezuela right now. What does that get? It doesn't work out so well.
No, Dan, you're so right. The New York Times just interviewed people who are voting for Mamdani, and this is my favorite profile. I have to tell you, this is a 28-year-old man who is an associate lawyer at one of the big law firms. Okay, he's making $225,000 a year. How would you categorize that salary in New York City?
I'd say you're doing all right.
You're upper middle class.
You're doing well.
Yeah.
You are upper middle class. You're not middle class. You're upper
definitely.
middle class. Okay, you're in the top 10% of income earners in New York City. So there's no way that's even middle. That's top 10%. That is great. Good. And this man lives with his mother in a rent-stabilized apartment in the city.
How's that even possible?
And he's going for Mamdani because the cost of living is too high and the rich are oppressing us. Give me a break. You're an entitled elite.
It's entitlement. It's a life of luxury and comfort.
Go and find an apartment and live by yourself. And what are you doing? Now, this is why, by the way, rent stabilization is a terrible policy that doesn't help the poor. It helps entitled, lucky people like him. They don't need to live in a rent stabilized apartment. Nobody does. We just need to let the market run it. They should be paying market rent so that everybody else can actually
Daniel,
pay
and
lower
then
rent.
long term, when you have these rent controls and when you have more control on housing, what happens to private buildings or private ownership is that, and we were talking about this off camera before the show, you were telling us that this actually creates, when people don't pay their taxes, it actually empowers the government to be able to take the homes from these people. Tell us a little bit about that. These are some of the dangers that folks don't think, because this is not something that happens overnight. It's in the long
Yes.
term.
People don't understand the long-term strategy that Mamdani is going to do with rent stabilization. So that you understand what this is, 1 in 4 apartments in New York City, housing units, are what it's called rent stabilized. That just means that for well over a decade, the government took them essentially and said to those private owners, you can't raise rent more than whatever the government tells you. And because it's been decades raising rent below inflation, now an apartment that really should go for example, $4,000 goes for $2,000, right? And so what happens is that many of these buildings are now not able to make property tax payments with the rent they receive. And what happens if you can't make property tax payments? The government has a right to take over your apartment. So this is actually something Mamdani already outlined. He's going to prohibit those apartments from even raising rent at all. Right now, they have been able to raise rent maybe by 1%, 2% a year. So over 4 years, at least, maybe 8, if he gets reelected, he will be able to not raise rent at all. And as they fall behind, he already said, and if they don't make their tax payments, we'll turn them into public housing. So the ultimate goal of Mamdani is to have 1/4 of New Yorkers living in government housing. And let me tell you, that is not pretty. I do not wish that on anyone, except maybe Mamdani and the 28-year-old who voted for him.
At the end of the day, I think New York is down a path that's very dangerous. And I a lot of folks are speaking that his win might propel more Democratic Socialist candidates. I think there's truth behind that. I think it will also give us a real clear indication of what these policies look like in the United States. Again, I think it would be a very sad moment when you're looking at history, when you're looking at these policies.